Sometimes, the scariest ghosts are not the ones hiding in the shadows, but the ones sitting silently beside you. Good evening, dear listeners. Welcome back to Radio Horror. Before we begin tonight's chilling story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel so you won't miss the next terrifying tale. Thank you. Now, let me take you to the dark streets of Chicago, where one man's secret sin turned into a haunting that would follow him forever. It was just past midnight when Michael Carter drove down the long stretch of Michigan Avenue. By day, this boulevard was alive with cars, neon signs, and laughter from crowded bars. But now, at night, it felt abandoned, like a graveyard wrapped in concrete and glass. The steady hum of his car engine sounded unnaturally loud, echoing through the empty street. Streetlights flickered weakly above, throwing broken shadows that seemed to twist and move. Michael drummed his fingers nervously on the steering wheel, fighting the cold that crawled up his arms. And then he saw it. A frail, hunched figure on the roadside, an old man pushing a wooden cart filled with glass bottles that clinked and rattled with every shaky step. A street vendor? At this hour? Michael narrowed his eyes, confusion mixing with unease. And then it happened. The old man stumbled. His cart toppled, bottles shattering across the pavement. His body pitched forward, collapsing into the road, straight into Michael's headlights. And now, dear listener, imagine it was you behind that wheel. What would you do in this moment? Would you call for help? Or would you run? For a frozen moment, silence swallowed the world. Michael gripped the wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white, his chest heaving, throat locked. He forced his eyes downward and instantly wished he hadn't. The old man lay twisted, chest rising and falling in broken gasps. His face was deathly pale, but his eyes were open wide, staring directly at Michael. That stare, piercing, accusing, seemed to burn through his soul. Michael's phone slipped from his sweaty hands. He wanted to scream, to call for help, to do anything, but he couldn't move. He was chained by the old man's gaze, a dying curse that clung to him with invisible claws. Tell me, would you dare hold that stare? Or would you look away and escape into the night, pretending it never happened? And in that crushing silence, Michael understood. He wasn't just a man on an empty street anymore. He had crossed into something darker, something that would never let him go.
Michael's chest heaved as he stumbled out of the car. The street was still deserted, eerily silent, as if the whole city had vanished. His ears rang with the echo of the crash. He forced himself to glance back. Blood trailed from the old man's mouth, his fingers twitching weakly against the pavement. Michael's phone lay on the passenger seat, glowing faintly with the screen still unlocked. All it would take was one call, one word, help. But he couldn't. His mind twisted with fear of police, of prison, of everything he could lose. No one can know, he whispered to himself, each word cutting deeper into his conscience. With trembling hands, he popped the trunk. The hinges groaned in protest, like the car itself wanted no part of this. He stood frozen, staring at the gaping dark space, then back at the dying man. The old man's lips moved, whispering something inaudible. His cloudy eyes never left Michael. That look, half human, half something else burned into him. Michael gagged as he grabbed the body under the arms. Bones shifted beneath his grip, skin clammy and wet. He dragged him across the asphalt, shoes slipping in blood. Every breath from the old man rattled like broken glass. "Forgive me," Michael muttered, but his voice cracked, hollow, meaningless. He lifted the body into the trunk with one final heave, slamming the lid down with a metallic clang that echoed across the empty avenue. Driving felt endless. Neon lights faded behind him. Highways stretched out like veins in the dark. Soon the world narrowed into lonely back roads, then into the black silence of Indiana woods. At last he stopped in a forgotten clearing. His headlights washed over tall trees, their branches twisted like claws reaching for the sky. He dug with his bare hands. Each handful of dirt tore at his fingers, caking his nails, filling his mouth with the taste of iron and earth. When the hole was deep enough, he rolled the body in, heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst. Covering the man with soil felt like burying himself alive. Michael stumbled into his apartment at dawn, clothes damp with sweat and dirt. He dumped the blood-stained jacket into a trash bag, hands shaking uncontrollably. The shower hissed as steaming water scalded his skin, but no amount of scrubbing could erase the feeling of those eyes. By evening, whiskey dulled his nerves. He collapsed into bed, hoping sleep would swallow everything. But at 2 a.m., a sound tore through the silence. A dragging noise. Heavy. Slow. Something being pulled across the floor. Michael's eyes shot open. His chest seized with panic. He held his breath, listening. The sound grew louder. From the living room to the hallway. Closer. Closer. "Just the neighbors," he whispered. But then it froze. He lived on the 18th floor. No one above, no one beside. His door rattled faintly. Then silence. Michael forced himself up. He opened the bedroom door. The hallway was empty. No footsteps, no sound. And yet, across the hall mirror, a reflection appeared. His car, the trunk half open, and in the back seat, something hunched, waiting. Tell me, listeners, if you heard that dragging sound outside your bedroom door at midnight, would you open it? Or would you hide under the covers praying it wasn't real? Michael slammed the door shut, sweat dripping from his forehead. But deep inside, he knew. He hadn't buried the old man alone in those woods. Something had followed him home. The next morning, Michael slid into his car with heavy dread. The stench hit him instantly. Wet earth, clinging and sour. No amount of air freshener could mask it. He turned the key, the dashboard lit up. A warning blinked. The passenger seatbelt light. His chest tightened. He looked over. The seat was empty, but the light kept flashing, insistent, as if the car knew someone invisible was riding with him. On the interstate, he caught movement in the rearview mirror. His pulse raced. He tried not to look, but curiosity and fear dragged his gaze upward. The old man was there, sitting silently in the back seat, his skin pale, sagging, his eyes hollow pits locked onto Michael's reflection. Michael gasped, swerving violently into the next lane. Horns blared around him. He blinked once, twice. The back seat was empty. Hands trembling, he whispered, "You're not real. You're not real." But the seatbelt light blinked again, and the faint sound of rattling bottles filled the car. Dear listener, if you saw a ghost staring at you from the mirror, would you dare look again, or would you keep your eyes forward, pretending nothing was there?
Nights blurred into days. Michael barely slept, barely ate. Every corner of his apartment seemed to breathe with shadows. The dragging noise returned each night, closer, louder. Once he swore he heard fingernails scraping against his bedroom wall. Another time, whispers slithering to his ear, though no one was there. At work, his colleagues noticed his pale face and trembling hands. "Rough week?" they asked. Michael forced a smile, but inside panic chewed at him. He began driving aimlessly, unable to stay still. The seatbelt light haunted him, flickering at random, always reminding him of his invisible passenger. One stormy night, thunder cracked above as he sped down the interstate. Lightning flashed, and in that split second, he saw the old man in the passenger seat. Not the back anymore, the front, right beside him. Michael screamed, swerving into the shoulder. Rain hammered against the windshield. The old man's face was inches from his own, lips curling into a grotesque smile. "Get out!" Michael shouted. He slammed his fist into the wheel. His scream drowned under the storm. But the seat beside him was empty again, only water dripping down the glass. Michael didn't remember how many hours had passed. His mind frayed at the edges. He found himself driving again, back into the dark Indiana woods. Rain turned the road into a black river. Headlights barely pierced the curtain of storm. His wipers screeched against the glass. The seatbelt light glowed steadily, stronger than ever. This time, Michael didn't dare glance at the seat. He knew someone was there. Then, from the speakers of the car came the faint clink of bottles, slow, mocking, a reminder of what he had tried to bury. Michael's chest heaved. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm sorry." The car swerved. Trees loomed on both sides, their branches reaching out like skeletal hands. And then he felt it, a cold hand gripping his wrist on the wheel. Michael's scream echoed into the storm. Tires lost traction. The car spun out of control, headlights whipping across endless dark. Metal crunched, glass shattered, silence. By morning, the wreck was found, deep in the woods. The driver's seat was empty, but the passenger side was soaked in mud and the seatbelt was still buckled. So tell me, dear listeners, the next time you drive alone at night and your passenger seatbelt light suddenly flickers on, will you dare look at the mirror? And that, dear listeners, is the tragic tale of Michael Carter, a man who thought he could bury his sins, but instead, his sins buried him. Remember, ghosts don't always haunt the places they die. Sometimes they haunt the guilty who tried to forget them. Thank you for listening to Radio Horror. If you enjoyed tonight's chilling tale, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you'll never miss the next true horror story. Until next time, keep your doors locked, your lights on, and whatever you do, don't look back.